Took the restrictor plate off. Let's keep that on the down low. It's not exactly street legal.
How dare you?
Video, what is this, 3 in the power tune-up mods things we're doing. In this video, we're going to be deleting all the emission stuff off the bike, the catch can, the secondary air system. Now, if you're just coming to this video and you haven't seen the previous videos, the first video we sort of highlighted what we're going to be doing in this whole sort of mini series within a series, which we're building up our CRF300L. Go back and watch that if you haven't seen it, because it kind of gives you a good overview of what's happening. We also stripped the bike down and got it in this state. And then just the video before this one, we actually fully modified the intake, the air box, put a DNA filter on there with a whole pre-filter thing. Really, really good stuff. But yes, in this one, we're going to be focusing on deleting all the emissions stuff and hopefully not having any check engine lights if all works well. But what are the emissions things? What's a catch can? What's a secondary air system? Let's go to the board and talk about that. In our fuel tank up here, we've got some gas, and we need to make sure that we're venting this. Also help if you overfill the bike. Now, at some point in time in the world, we would just vent this under the frame of the bike. But no longer those days. They don't like us doing that. I'm guessing the EPA and other environmental agencies around the world don't really like that. So instead, they have us put one of these on there. A can of charcoal. So the idea is if any little bits of gas, maybe overfill or sloshes around, gets in here and works its way down to the charcoal canister, it'll sit in here and sort of dry out, if you will, and turn into fumes. From there, we have a pipe that goes up with a solenoid switch. It opens and shuts when it believes the engine's in the right condition to help vent these fumes off. And it vents them back into our air box. Now, ideally, if this is all working properly, there's not really a problem with it. If you lay the bike over, which being a dirt bike happens sometimes, it can really get tricky. That's what happened to me when I was out at the off-road park. Most likely what happened is this thing actually got full of gasoline quite a bit. And then at some point when the bike thought the engine was in the correct condition, it began to open this little purge solenoid. Instead of sucking in fumes, it was probably bringing in globs of gas or just tons of fumes. It was actually stalling the bike and making it run really crappy.
There it goes again. It smells like fuel to me, heavy though right now. Ooh, surging, you see that? Ooh.
What we're going to do is basically delete the system and run it to ground as it used to be. We do have a little solenoid up here. This is electronically controlled, and we're gonna have to see about not having a check engine light when we unplug that. I cannot find any direct info about the 300L. The info I could find on the old 250L, which is very common, especially electronically, how this one is set up, is that you could just put a pin in those 2 wires that go to the solenoid, kind of jump the gap in there, and the check engine light will never come on. Turns out I was wrong. This did make the engine light come on. However, in a video coming up, I installed the PowerVision 3, and this seemed to turn the light off after I flashed it with a stock tune. At the time of editing this video, that is the fix that I know of, and that video is coming up soon. We'll see. I'll give that a shot. So we're gonna be deleting that. What about the secondary air system? Secondary air system, check it out. What an artist I am. The idea of the secondary air system is we actually would draw some air from the air box and dump it into the exhaust. Now, for simplicity's sake, here I've actually shown this is like a muffler and this is the air box and it's dumping right into that. This actually goes right in at the top of the head, right down into one of the exhaust ports. So why are we doing this? Why are we drawing extra air into the muffler? Well, this is to help clean up your exhaust a little bit. Any unburnt fuel going through your exhaust, if we can introduce some fresh air in there, could give it a chance to burn up, especially with the heat of the exhaust. And more so over, this works really well with the stock catalytic converter. We're not gonna have a catalytic converter here very soon. So imagine you have your air box, you have sort of a one-way valve. There's also like a solenoid that can open and shut in there too. Same thing, we're gonna need to pin that across just like the other deal. So a couple problems you can have with this system. If this reed valve is not perfect, which they usually aren't, over time you can start getting dirt and crap coming back up in through here. Also, this makes the entire exhaust very, very hot. In general, this also can just make the whole bike run a little warmer. What would be really unhelpful for us is when we go to tune this bike, they're gonna stick a very sensitive O2 sensor into the exhaust. And with this system on there, it's pumping extra air and it's just gonna look very, very lean. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's why it was like off the charts lean when we were at the dyno. Is the engine actually off the charts lean? I mean, I'm sure it's lean to some degree, but not that much. I believe that's just a lot of extra air getting pumped in there. So we need to delete that so we can get a proper tune. And it would be nice if we'll save some weight, get rid of all this junk. We don't need that stuff. Is this actually going to add any direct horsepower? Not really, but nevertheless, I think it's very worth doing. Let's look at what we're gonna use to do that. Revzilla has been a big help for me throughout this whole project, and once again, they've come through with this. This is Driven Racing block off plate. This is a simple plate that's gonna go over the little reed valves on the head for the secondary air system. Nice, simple aluminum piece here. Also comes with this big cap to cap off the hose going into the air box, and basically that's it. The rest of it, we're gonna have to kind of Mickey Mouse and come up with what we gotta come up with. We may need to get another cap like that. I've got a few on me. Technically, they don't show that this fits the bike, but I'm sure it does, but I'll have this linked in the description nevertheless. Otherwise, let's start looking into what we need to do. Our charcoal canister is right here. There's some hoses going into it on this side as well as the other side. I'm going to pop off and remove my shock reservoir. This is for the Race Tech DS3 Custom. We have a whole video on that. While I'm removing it, I should mention, a number of y'all have mentioned and commented saying that where I've put it is a bad idea because it's gonna get too hot from the engine. These things are full of nitrogen actually. That's not a problem for them. They can get hot like that. In fact, if you go look at most stock bikes that come with these, they literally sit right under the exhaust, right above the exhaust. Like that's not a problem for them. Secondly, this is actually where Race Tech said to put it. That bracket is made to fit and go right here. The nitrogen will not be affected by the heat. It's meant to be here. This is literally cooler than where it would be on most bikes where it sits just above the exhaust. So it's okay. This hose right here, it says drain, and this looks like it goes down and actually does dump under the bike because it's plastic on rubber. I'm not too worried about that. There we go. For the moment, I'm just gonna let that sitting right here because I may end up doing is relinking to this later. I think this is a vent right here. Yeah, that's what this pipe is. So we can pull this through. There we go. On the other side of the canister, this vent right here, I know this goes to the gas tank. Leave that tucked over here for just a moment. You may likely reuse that and connect it to the other drain that went on the other side. This hose actually wraps back around to a solenoid that sits right on top of the charcoal canister. And then comes out the other side of that canister into this pipe right here, which goes into our throttle body. We need to disconnect this one and put a nipple on it. There it is. To be honest, I'm not really sure how to get this out. Bolt right here, obviously, to this bracket piece. Maybe I should undo that. This is the figuring out part. There's an electrical connector on here too somewhere, but I just don't see any way to get into that right now. It's got like a rubber thing around it. Sharp razor blade here. I'm actually just gonna cut through some of this. Gotta be careful. There's some other things behind here. I don't want to cut like the breather, but I'm not concerned with trying to save this thing if this makes it easier to get it out. It seems like it's one of those things they probably put in there when they're building the bike, and it's just not any convenient way for you to remove this. Yeah, right up hitting this connector for our throttle body. Built this into the bike there, didn't they? I'm gonna see if I can just slice through this whole rubber sort of strip here at the top. That might be helpful to do. I got it all the way. All right, that might be the move right there. Not the most graceful way to get that out, but there it is. And all that's left here is this little electrical connection. I wouldn't say it's heavy. And it's light, chunky little thing. I gotta keep my starter looking clean for y'all. Like I said, I got away with it looking so dirty before. How embarrassing. So we have a couple connectors and a couple hoses we need to mess with. This hose right here goes to the fuel tank. This is the drain for the fuel tank. And this right here, this less black with a red stripe wire, this is a vent. This goes down to ground. So what we really need to do is you could just tie these two together. We could just get a much longer hose and just remake this whole thing, but why not use what we got? Especially if you got some of these little things. These are just little like automotive sort of vacuum vent things that let you connect hose lines together. That's simple enough. We're just gonna shove one in one end, shove this in the other end. So according to the interwebs, they said just to basically bridge this gap. Got this safety wire here and it does force in there really well. And I was checking here because I wasn't 100% sure. It does seem to be conductive. See? So we should be good. I'll make like a U shape with this. Should be good. Definitely down in there. We'll take some electrical tape coming around to help hold that pin in. Do another piece going the opposite. Round this a couple times. I'm gonna keep it from ever unraveling on us. This electrical tape likes to do when it gets hot sometimes. I'll put a zip tie around it. Right, now we're just gonna find somewhere to stuff that. Lightly zip tie it to this little wire right here so it kind of hangs out in a nice spot. Now we need to plug off our little vacuum nipple thing right here. Simplest thing I think to do is just go get you a set of these sort of generic little vacuum nipple things like that. I'm gonna go with the skinniest of them. That's super tight on there. Down on there, that's gonna be good to go just like that. You could try to get a little clamp on there if you want, but it's not gonna need one. That is definitely tight. And when we wanna add nitrous, we can add it right there. And with that, our canister is deleted. Woo! Nice old place here for all this room for activities now. Look at that. So let's start with the secondary air. I think this will actually be a little easier. Now, this is actually the solenoid right here for the secondary air system. We got this hose that comes around and goes into our air box over here. You need a tool for these. You can just pull these off by hand. Following it over here, it's this upper one. We have this open port here on the intake, and they give you this little cap for it in our block-off kit. It's not very snug on there. Going through some of the other rubber caps I have, this is one of the biggest ones I have, and it honestly looks still really small, but oh yeah. That's definitely gonna be airtight now. So this other hose right here coming off the valve cover, this goes into a little reed valve, so we can pop this one off as well. There we go. O2 sensor wire is clipped on right here. I've unpopped that, moved to the side. Obviously my O2 sensor is also unplugged right now because we're doing the exhaust here soon, but I don't know, we may end up losing the little bracket that holds it. It's not the end of the world, we just have to zip tie it somewhere else along the frame. Two 8mm. Just like the other side, we need to pin this connector off. Another piece of safety wire. Now I'm left with this connection right here, which goes to my O2 sensor, and this was sitting across a bracket that was holding the solenoid. I guess I could take the solenoid out and put the whole bracket up just to re-get the thing that clips in and holds this. Or, this is where one of the bolts went, and we'll just put another zip tie through here. Kind of put it through our loop. This connector is sitting roughly where it was sitting before. Now we can turn our focus to the actual reed valve system itself. This is pretty simple. It's just two 8mm to hold this on. Alright, and there it is. And here's the little reed valve itself. We should be able to just pop this out. Come on, get out. There we go. Look how black that is. It's sooty and nasty from all the carbon coming up from it. It's like a little spark arrestor, I'm sure. And this is like a little reed valve in here. This is what's supposed to be the one-way valve, but they're not perfect. Things usually get past them. And this was the cap. Now what you're normally supposed to do is pop this cap off, get our plate here, which is the exact right size, it's the right thickness, and just literally re-bolt it in. Because we need this in here. See how this has got this like gasket in here? We need this to seal it. Now you can pull this out, you don't need this in there, that's not doing anything anymore. But what I would like to do is actually remove this reed valve on here. Reason being is, I'm wondering if this is what's causing the 5,000 RPM rattle that we all hear. I don't know for sure, give it a shot. These ones look like they're gonna be a real pain to get off. I might need to just drill that out. This is the bit we need. I guess I could have drilled that hole a little more in there. How's that for an angle? Do you guys hate that? I think this will kind of work. It's hard to film this angle for some reason. That gasket should be all we need. We just need to stick this guy on now. That should do it. And there it is. This is our bounty. I don't know. This is some stuff we took off the motorcycle and we don't have it anymore. How much does that stuff weigh? I don't know. I'm not a drug dealer. I don't have one of those kind of scales. My guesstimation is like maybe like a pound or two. But it was a necessary thing. We needed to get that done, so that we can do other things to make good power and performances and all happiness. This is my Chewini. I call him Little One. We're gonna carry on. This is a whole series. You gotta stay tuned. You gotta, if you're not subscribed, I don't know what you're thinking. Come on, look at the dog one. He's like, please subscribe, I'm a dog. I'm so cute. Look at me with my funny ears. What is it? What do you smell over there? Next video, the cams. I'm gonna throw the cams there, and I haven't told you guys what cams these are. Some of you can figure it out, but it's going to be cool. I think, guys, this is gonna be the thing. It's gonna be like the flat slide carb for the DRZ. It's gonna be like that, but for this bike. It's gonna be that secret sauce that really unlocks some really good potential power, still keeping it super reliable. So stay tuned for that. That's already out on Patreon, by the way. They're always a video ahead of you guys, and the videos that they get are ad-free, extended cuts, uncensored, all the good stuff. All the good stuff. They have access for just $1 a month to help support this channel, and you get to come hang out with me in the Discord. It's a great time. I'm gonna start on those cams in the morning. So that's gonna be a fun day. I'm gonna be really excited with that. It's also gonna be my birthday tomorrow.